Welcome, everybody, yet another episode of the Wrestling vs. the World podcast. If you're enjoying your day, sweet. If not, what the hell ever? It is time to cover a pay-per-view that happened all the way back in 1996 that I wanted to talk about because I finally managed to find the live pay-per-view feed of this event. And I'm talking about In Your House, Beware of Dog, the 8th ever In Your House pay-per-view. Why am I specifically talking about this one? Well, because this was the infamous pay-per-view where the pay-per-view feed got cut due to a severe thunderstorm, knocking out the power. Let's go over this. So, May 26, 1996, in Florence, South Carolina, the WWF held its 8th ever In Your House pay-per-view titled In Your House, Beware of Dogs. Beware of Dog. The show is infamous for one thing only, and that, of course, like I mentioned, was the thunderstorm going on that cut the pay-per-view feed. After the opening match between Mark Merrill and Triple H happened, the company would air a backstage interview to hype up the main event between the British Bulldog and Shawn Michaels. You had like Owen Hart there and Jim Cornette trying to hype up the match and all that stuff. However, the next part was where everything went dark. Literally. Because Stone Cold was set up for his Caribbean strap match against Savio Vega, with the rule being that if Stone Cold won, Savio would be the chauffeur for himself and the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase. If Vega won, DiBiase was gone. And as Savio Vega was making his entrance to the ring, before he could even touch the ring, boom, pay-per-view feed got cut, everything was gone. Now, power to the Florence Civic Center was cut as a result of the storm as well as the feed because, well, storm going on, rain going all over the place, so everything was just a gigantic hassle going on during this night. Now, after a bit of a dark period that was going on, the company would play a bit of a videotape of Vince McMahon and Jerry Lawler at their commentary table, trying to give the fans an update who were watching live through pay-per-view what was going on, but the first time they played it, you couldn't hear anything because Vince was having microphone issues. And a quick bit of a side note here, if you actually look behind Vince McMahon and Jerry Lawler, you can see Fabulous Moolah and Mae Young there behind the barricade and attending as fans. Kind of a fun little note there. Well, after another bit of a dark period, the company would re-air the video that Vince was just talking with corrected audio, so he addressed the audience saying that, hey, tune the next night on Raw, we'll give you guys an update as to what is going on and what may be happening on Tuesday, because 2 days after the pay-per-view was usually when they re-aired like an encore presentation of the pay-per-view, so nobody knew what was going on. Thankfully, power would be restored into the building and the live pay-per-view feed just in time for the main event, which meant that 4 matches happened as dark matches during the show, but I'll get back to those in just a second. But by the time the pay-per-view feed happened, it was just before Bulldog and HBK could make their entrances, and at the end of the show, they like to do those highlight packages showing like highlights of what happened during that show, and of course, they only aired highlights happened from the 2 visible matches of that evening, being Triple H Mark Merrill, and of course Shawn Michaels, British Bulldog. The next night on Raw was where everything got addressed, because the WWF, after the opening match between Goldust and the Ultimate Warrior, they would air some footage showing the outdoor thunderstorm that was going on, including the torrential downpours that were going over their wiring during the pay-per-view feed, and some clips of matches that happened in the dark during the power outage were actually shown, but of course, you couldn't see anything. Now, there were 4 matches that did happen in the dark during the pay-per-view having downtime. Stone Cold versus Savio Vega in the Caribbean strap match, which you couldn't see anything. Undertaker versus Goldust in the casket match for the Intercontinental Championship, Yokozuna versus Vader, and a squash match between Jake the Snake Roberts and Justin Pac Bradshaw, aka JBL. 2 days later, the company would redo 3 of those 4 matches at the In Your House Beware of Dog 2 pay-per-view. So anybody who saw the first pay-per-view, through their pay-per-view cable providers and everything, they could get the replay, well, the new version of In Your House Beware of Dog 2 days later, with 3 of those 4 matches happening. The only match that did not have a redo was Jake Roberts versus Justin Bradshaw. And a bit of a weird note is that one match that was redone between both of those pay-per-views was Yokozuna versus Vader, and between those 2 matches, one of them had Vader win the match, and then the other one, in fact, that was the live one from In Your House Beware of Dog 2, while the dark match they had 2 days prior in the dark, Yokozuna won. So they redid a match and had different outcomes. To this very day, the dark matches have never been released in full due to the circumstances surrounding the event, because you couldn't really see what's going on there, and I'm surprised the men were able to see what they were doing in pitch black. The only time you could even see anything was going on is if people were flashing their lights from their cameras. Otherwise, nothing could be seen. Now, how did WWE Network / Peacock edit this? Well, it was pretty noticeable. on the network / Peacock you had the period between the British Bulldog and Shawn Michaels hype interview that was going on backstage, and to cover up right at the end, they re-showed that bumper intro for the In Your House Beware of Dog intro that you saw there for the beginning of the pay-per-view, to do as a cover-up transition between that interview at the end of it leading into the main event. So even when they were re-airing the pay-per-view, they didn't show the part saying, hey, here's where the pay-per-view feed got cut. If you want to see that footage, you had to watch Raw. And then afterwards, after the Shawn Michaels British Bulldog match ended, you saw a fade-in transition from the end of that match into the second In Your House Beware of Dog pay-per-view to the other 3 matches. So yeah, it seemed like everything was a bit of a mess. I mean, WWE's known for doing everything they can to try to cover up any issues, but this was pretty noticeable when you watch the WWE Network / Peacock version of the pay-per-view and then compare it to the live feed. I mean, so, of course, Vince McMahon's promo that he cut during the live feed addressing the fans about this whole power outage issue never made it to Peacock or the network. So if you wanted to see that and hear how Vince addressed it, you have to find the live pay-per-view feed. So this, to my knowledge, this is one of the rare times where you ever see any power issues going on during the live pay-per-view. I think, if memory serves me right, they did have a bit of a power outage issue during the live feed of, I think it was Battleground in 2013, if memory serves me right. But other than that, this was only a rare time when this happened. And then, of course, 2 days later when they redid the pay-per-view, they did it all the way in the North Charleston Coliseum with 1,500 less fans than the night before. So 10,500 fans between 2 venues. It's alright, but again, this whole thing was just a massive debacle. Like I said, you can't fool with Mother Nature. But I mean, hopefully we never have to go through something like this in WWE history ever again. So let me know you out there in the comment section below. Have you ever seen the live pay-per-view feed of what happened with In Your House Beware of Dog? Because if not, it's a pretty weird thing to watch, especially when you see how WWE edited it for the re-airing on streams and all that shit. So, let me know you on the comment section below. If you enjoyed today's episode of the podcast, please remember, leave a like, subscribe with the bell, turn on if you're listening to this on YouTube, or follow if you're listening to this podcast on any other service that this podcast is available on. And I'll catch you on the next episode. Thanks for listening, everybody. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace out, and good day, everybody.